Welcome to The Explainer. All right, let's just dive right into one of the biggest, wildest questions you can possibly ask. It sounds like something straight out of a movie, but it's being seriously debated by top physicists and philosophers. What if none of this is real? What if we're living inside a giant computer program? People have been asking, is any of this actually real for, well, forever? But today, it's not just some abstract philosophical thought experiment anymore. Modern technology has given that ancient question a powerful and kind of terrifying new twist.
And this idea, it's not new, not by a long shot. It goes way back. I mean, you have Plato and his allegory of the cave, right? Prisoners who think shadows on a wall are the entire world. Fast forward a couple thousand years, you get Descartes worrying that some evil demon is fooling his senses. The idea keeps evolving, right up until 2003 when the philosopher Nick Bostrom drops his simulation hypothesis and turns the whole thing from a cool puzzle into a serious statistical argument.
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll dig into the core argument that got everyone talking. Then we'll look at the evidence for and against it. After that, we'll explore the absolutely mind-bending implications if it's all true. And finally, we'll see where the search for an answer is heading. So let's get into the guy who really kicked this whole modern debate into high gear, Nick Bostrom. Now, the genius of his paper wasn't him saying, hey guys, we're definitely in a simulation. No, he did something much, much smarter. He framed it as a trilemma, a logical puzzle where one of three very strange possibilities has to be true. Here's how his logic goes. Option 1, humanity just doesn't make it. We go extinct long before we get technologically advanced enough to create these perfect ancestor simulations. Option 2, we do get that advanced, but we just decide not to run them. Maybe it's an ethical nightmare, maybe it's just boring, who knows. But, and this is the kicker, if options 1 and 2 are wrong, that only leaves option 3, that advanced civilizations would create simulations, and not just 1 or 2, but billions of them. And if that's the case, the odds are overwhelmingly stacked against us being in the one single base reality. So think about it for a second. The argument kind of forces your hand. If you're an optimist, if you think humanity has a good shot at survival and that our future descendants will be curious about their past, then you're almost logically required to take that third possibility very, very seriously. That's the statistical power of his trilemma. It kind of corners you. All right, so that's the big logical argument. But what about actual evidence? Are there any glitches in the matrix? Well, proponents of the theory say yes, and they believe the clues are literally baked into the source code of our universe. Let's start with quantum mechanics, because this is a big one. You know how in a video game, the world only renders in full detail right where you're looking to save processing power? Well, some physicists look at the quantum world and see something eerily similar. Particles seem to exist in this fuzzy cloud of possibilities until we actually measure them, and then bam, they snap into a definite state. It's almost like the universe is rendering reality on demand. And beyond that, you've got the fact that our physical laws are all described by these perfect mathematical equations, almost like lines of code. Plus, just look at our own tech. The leap from Pong to photorealistic VR is staggering, suggesting it's only a matter of time before we can create simulations that are totally indistinguishable from the real thing. And look, this isn't just some fringe idea anymore. You have people like Elon Musk saying the odds that we are in base reality are 1 in billions. His argument is pretty simple. 40 years ago, we had Pong. That was it. 2 rectangles and a dot. Now we have photorealistic 3D simulations that millions of people can inhabit simultaneously. If you just assume any rate of improvement at all, these games will eventually become indistinguishable from reality. It seems inevitable. Okay, but let's pump the brakes for a second, because for every compelling argument for the simulation, there's a really powerful counterargument. And these aren't just little problems, they are major roadblocks coming from physics, logic, and even ethics. First off, a lot of scientists just dismiss it as pseudoscience. Why? Because you can't prove it wrong. Any evidence you might find against it, someone can just say, well, the simulators programmed it that way. Then there's the turtles all the way down problem. Okay, so we're a simulation, but who simulated our simulators? And who simulated them? It doesn't actually answer the ultimate question of where everything came from. And maybe the most compelling point is the ethical one. Would a super advanced intelligent civilization really create a universe with this much predictable, awful suffering? That seems pretty cruel. And then you get to the practicalities, the sheer computational power you'd need. I mean, forget your gaming rig.
According to some research, to perfectly simulate just 1 single second of our reality would take a classical supercomputer about 1.4 million years. The energy and data storage required is it's beyond astronomical.
But maybe the real nail in the coffin comes from math itself. There's a groundbreaking new study that argues our universe simply cannot be a simulation. The reason? It seems that reality has properties that are non-algorithmic. That's a fancy way of saying there are aspects of our universe that you just can't write a program for. They can't be broken down into a set of rules or instructions. And if that's true, well, the whole idea of a simulation pretty much falls apart.
Okay. Let's hit pause on the whole debate for a minute. Let's just play a game of what if. What if it's true? We wake up tomorrow, there's definitive proof we're living in a simulation. What actually changes for us?
Well, first up, what happens to free will? I mean, are you really choosing to listen to this right now? Or is that just a line of code executing? If our brains are just incredibly complex but simulated hardware, are any of our choices truly our own? Or are we just characters following a very, very convincing script? And then there are the simulators themselves. Who or what are they? Are they enlightened scientists running some grand cosmic experiment? Or are we just a game of The Sims being played by some cosmic teenager in their parents' basement? We'd have no way of knowing their motives. Are they benevolent? Are they indifferent? Or could they just get bored and pull the plug? Now, it's really easy to just spiral into nihilism here and think, well, then nothing matters. But a lot of philosophers would push back hard on that. They'd argue that our experiences are still absolutely real to us. Pain still hurts. Joy still feels amazing. Love, justice, compassion, those things would still be just as meaningful because their value comes from how we experience them, not from what the universe is ultimately made of. So, where does all this leave us? Well, we're basically stuck in this fascinating intellectual tug of war. On one side, you've got this clean, powerful statistical argument, and on the other, you've got this massive wall of physical, logical, and ethical problems that stand in its way. And this table really sums up that tension perfectly. You've got the sheer probability argument versus the practical computational impossibility. You have quantum physics looking like a programming shortcut versus the fact that simulating it seems impossible. It's just a fundamental clash of huge ideas. So yeah, the hunt is on. Researchers are pushing at the absolute boundaries of our knowledge, looking for the seams of our reality. They're trying to see if space-time is pixelated at the smallest possible scales. They're searching for tiny mathematical inconsistencies in the laws of physics, basically any little glitch that might give the whole game away. In the end, the simulation hypothesis is so much more than just a fun thought experiment. It's a profound challenge to our most basic understanding of everything. It forces us to seriously ask, what does it even mean for something to be real? And it leaves us with one final, provocative thought to chew on. If you found a door, a way out of the simulation, would you open it?